Alright guys, this is a walkthrough on the Hoboken, New Jersey skate park model I did in Solidworks. This is a technical walkthrough for Solidworks users so that you can kind of see both my thinking behind designing the skate park and the technical aspects of actually modeling the skate park. I don't make any claims that I'm an expert. I definitely have ridden a number of skate parks, so as an intro, this is just my take on this particular location. If I had it to model over again, I'm not sure if I would do anything different. I might have some library items where I could drag and drop library features in, but it seems like there's enough of a dynamic nature to each location that I don't know that having library features, unless they were street features, where if you had a library feature, you would want it to be drag and drop, and then you'd manipulate it to fit the area that you're putting it in. So I could see that being a possibility, and then there are other features in this park that have to be designed around the actual location. So anyways, we'll get to it here. Alright guys, so if this seems cut in, this is recorded after, but it's probably going to be in the beginning. And I just meant to do this when I did my original recordings and forgot to, and so I thought it would be important to put it in. What you're looking at on screen to the left of my face there is a site plan of the original skate park, and I thought I would just throw this in to go over kind of, I'm not very good at sketching, but it's usually I kind of have an idea and then it's enough to do my little crayon scribbly scratch and formulate a plan. So this is the original sketch I had. You can see I had this tree planting donut feature down here on the end with the bench going around it. I knew I wanted that end to have an elevated section and then have it be low in the middle and then something high on the other end. And so this is very crude. I had some stairs sketched in, 2 sets of stairs. One set that was closer, and then I couldn't figure out how people were going to get back up there besides walking, so I changed that. And these are all low quality. They're all scanned in. They're all it was just something for me to get my thoughts down on paper. So I don't claim for this to be good. I suck at drawing, so but this is how I did it. So then I got that upper part done, and did I have the middle island? I didn't. So I didn't have any of the rest of the park, and you can see early on I had a big, huge deck. So right here, this was all raised, like tabletop deck area. See where they say up. You know what? I wonder if I originally had this flat go clear out to here, and then I only had 2 raised sections here and here, maybe. I don't know, there's definitely some scribble there. I think I had transition here, flat, and then another transition. And then I had 2 bowls with like a spine, and I didn't like the way this hump stuck out and would cut the ability for people to come through here down. And there's no exit on that side of the park, so that was another iteration. And I'm doing these in order, so as you see them is how I sketched them. And then this was just me trying to like mentally decide how the park was going to flow. This actually was more helpful than anything, and I would think or would hope that all people who design parks kind of do this. These are, I don't know, I thought of them as flow lines. Basically there were the paths I hoped the park participants would take. So this was very instructional for me and useful for planning. This is a terrible scan, but I was early on in this section here, and I was trying to figure out how to get this area higher, taller, and what I was going to do about this like void here. And it was just kind of doing some mind mapping. So it's a terrible picture, but it does show some of the sketch I put on there. And then obviously this jumps way forward. I've got a huge part of the park done. Wasn't sure how I wanted this bowl to look over here, so I was kind of just sketching circles. I had put a square in at one point, and just was trying to see how far these tits could stick out and not totally disrupt the flow inside the bowl. Didn't like that shape, so then I did another one, and obviously that's the shape I ended up with. So this was really close to what I actually drew. You can see the stairs here. Didn't have any of this central area here figured out yet, but this actually ended up being pretty close to what I did. This was something that didn't make it into any of the CAD works, but basically these were different types of fencing. So I didn't know if there was a theme with the city. So obviously I did this one on the left side here because it was the easiest, but I had just done different shapes to try to figure out. These were kind of a bridge shape here, just to figure out what would look okay. And then I was also trying to figure out how this here looks crazy, but what this is on the sidewalk that is next to the road, I wanted an area where if you were walking on the sidewalk, you would notice a difference in the tactile feel of the concrete or the walkway. And I was trying to design an entrance where you couldn't get hit and you couldn't come flying out of the park. So think of it kind of like a turnstile, but obviously you're not going to have a turnstile at the park. So these here are just bricks. So this is a brick inlay or stamped concrete, and it was also going to be stained red, and I didn't incorporate that. But what these were, there were lights here that indicated the park opening. This was going to be a big concrete, like 8-foot tall concrete kind of cylinder, and then this was going to be a low wall with a fence on it. And these curbs have little kickouts, so if bikes or skateboards hit this, they're deflected. You can see this arrow I put in here. They're deflected into the corner, and it just forces you to turn 90 degrees to come out of the park. And so I just kind of sketched that up. I was trying to figure out how to make the entrance when you come in. I didn't want someone getting ran over or blasted by somebody that was going by. And I never did incorporate that, but it was just me mind mapping, trying to figure out what the entrance would look like. So anyways, that's just a real quick rundown of the sketches. I didn't have many of them, but I wanted to include that in the footage so that you guys would kind of, from a SolidWorks standpoint, just what I personally go through with this particular product, which is a skate park, and just kind of the 13-year-old sketching or 5-year-old sketching that I do. So anyways, we'll move on with the CAD footage and keep going. So we'll take a look at the park here first. If you've watched the other video, then this won't be new to you, but if you're watching this video for the first time, basically up in this area is a street section. It's elevated. It gives you the ability to come off the street section here and go down across the I'm going to actually hide the site. Then it gives you the ability to come off the flat and either go this direction or this direction. There's a street spine or a spine here with kind of a street section here. And, oops, wrong key. There we go. Another elevated section. You've got kind of this dome here. There's transition there, and then this way just is a perfect blend. And then you have another elevated section up here where you can skate back and forth across here. And then you've got entrance stairs here. And you've got 2 openings here and here. And then you've got a set of stairs here. And if I open the assembly, we'll do that just real quick for reference. So let me get the assembly open. The only thing the assembly adds is all of this fencing that basically keeps the park separated from people walking on the sidewalk. So the challenge with the site is that if I turn the site picture back on, the bay is over here, and this road is a very busy road. And so you can't set the bowl down past what I would... The street would be Z0 for me, or actually the sidewalk is Z0. So you really don't want the bowl... You don't want a feature on this park to extend below the sidewalk because of the river. So the challenge here is you want all your drains, all the surface area in the park to be able to drain out to the river, or you want it to go to the road. I don't know how they deal with their surface runoff, but you certainly don't want anything in the park that's low enough that you're going to have a problem with flooding. So everything in the park is plus, I think, plus 1 foot from the sidewalk. Even the bottom of the bowl here, I think, is plus 1 foot. So that's part of the challenge with this location, is all this hand railing, because the park needed to be up. If it was in a different location, there's a possibility that some of this could have been pushed down and you wouldn't have had to have as tall of a fence. But the idea here is that... why is that on hide? The idea here is to just keep park interactions and sidewalk interactions to a minimum. And part of the thing too is to build this fence tall enough. I don't know. This is the part I struggle with. So I think one of the worst things that could happen is someone comes off this face here and somehow ends up on top of the fence or over the fence out here. I don't know how you solve that. There's just not enough room in this location, short of making the park much smaller with much more margin and then bringing grass up to that location and having a lot of trail off. But you lose a lot of width. If you trimmed the park down, 15 feet, you'd lose a humongous section of the park. So don't know how to fix that. Don't really want to fix it. The city of Hoboken has a much smaller park. It's more like a plaza where you've got, kids and their mothers and their walkers and whatnot. And I just am vehemently against that. If you're not there to ride the park, you absolutely should not be in the park. So I think it's a recipe for injury, but that's just me. So we're going to close the assembly. So part of the reason I'm having an issue here is because I normally work on a 4K screen on my center screen, which would be over there to you guys. And this screen I had to make 1080, and it's to my right. And I'm just not used to working over here on the right screen. And I'm also getting used to OBS. My camera's right in between the two screens. So to look at you guys, my CAD data is actually over here a little bit. So anyways, sorry if it's distracting. I don't mean for it to be. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll this thing all the way back, and we're going to step through this file, and I'll kind of talk to you guys about each part of it here. So roll back, maybe turn my mouse down a little bit since I'm not used to this resolution. So this is the view that I clipped out of Google Maps. And this is the original current skate park, their wood ramps. So you had a half pipe, a quarter, some kind of flat wall with some transition so you could maybe ollie your air out of here and land on the flat transition. Some kind of flat box thing, some kind of elevated box here, some kind of jointed wedge here. And then the sucky part is this entire skate park was just 10 foot or 12 foot tall cyclone fencing. And you have a big plant. You have this weird narrow spot. So right here in real life, you have a bike rack. And then you have this raised plant, 4 foot tall raised planter right here. And it makes this super narrow section. So you come off this big area, wide sidewalk, and then there's this pinch point. And in their rendering, they had removed this planter box. So this whole thing's been erased. They say they're going to develop this grass gravel area. They're going to supposedly fix this dock here and do some kind of boardwalk. But I have lots of ideas, but obviously, New Jersey could care less. So we'll stick with the CAD data. So what I'm going to do is, for right now, I'll leave this picture up because that'll help. And I may or may not turn it off at times. So site plan was just me sketching out sidewalk widths and just getting a reference for how big the skate park could be. I tried to make this sidewalk here kind of point at the dock. There's a 20-foot sidewalk here, so there's plenty of room for people to walk. This is the existing sidewalk at the road. And let's see, what's this? West sidewalk plane. So I put a plane in at the edge of the sidewalk right here. This is the boundary of the current skate park. So that was what we were going to keep. Site pad is my first extrude. It is, I believe, 6 inches down. So let's see here. Yeah. So let's see, site pictures where? Well, how about top plane? Yeah. So I extruded down from Z0 for the sidewalk. That keeps the skate park at the same elevation as the sidewalk. So this giant extrude is just me mapping out the size of the park. And let's see, then we go elevated south. So I've got these in folders, so this is going to unwrap all at once, and then we'll roll it back up here. Let's see, so we'll step through these real quick. So axis 1 is what? Yeah, so that axis is just the end of the park here. This 12-foot radius circle. We'll just go through this quickly because this will be forever if I don't. So this is just the start of the bench at the end of the park. And there's the elevated section of the park. Just click on the sketch real quick to give you guys some dimensions. Come on. So you guys can see the numbers right there. And then this sweep is extending the bench over here on the side so people can sit out of the way. It kind of cuts in so people aren't in the sidewalk area. Stairs are right there. And then, so there's going to be some techniques that you guys can look at as I do this. So the stairs obviously just end out in space. There's the kind of the deflection curb, keeps boards from shooting out into the stairs. The next sweep is the bench up on top. So that's a bench section. Let's see. And then this is a big block to kind of terminate the stairs. And it terminates the bench up here. And it terminates the bench here. And it's supposed to be kind of an anti-climb feature so that you just don't... I suppose people could sit up here, but it was more or less to try to keep them from sitting on that area. I can't remember if I cut that at an angle or not. We'll see. The wall over there. Let's see. Filleting. What do we got for filleting? Just eased right there. That corner. What's this sweep here? Yeah, so I just swept a shape with a rounded top on it so I can adjust the radius and I can adjust the angle of this flat face. And we're just going to roll through this, ease the bottom of the transition there so it's not a sharp, hard transition. Roller that's tangent to the face. So, full disclosure, I'm a BMXer, so I'm going to design this park for both. I used to skate, and I like skating. But if I was to be a skater, I don't have a lot of interest in street skating. I'm more of a transition skater, which is probably age-related. I can see and value the street sections. I think there are a lot of parks that are street parks because they're easy to design. You just throw a bunch of curbs and handrails in at the appropriate heights and angles, and they're popular right now. So this is just a pumper. There's a grind wall, also provides a border for the pump. There's a box in the top corner, which also provides some separation for traffic. Put a top on it. So that top was there, and then this extrude is an actual Euro. There's a Euro gap here with an 8-foot transition. Let's see, a roller on the very end. So again, for people who want a lot of speed off this, they can pump this roller, and there's still a Euro gap here. Euro gap is... I'm so used to looking in one direction. Let's see, 70 inches, 6 times 12, 72. So it's almost 6 feet wide. It may not be wide enough. Might have to bring this over a little bit, but it's like everything, space makes you compromise. Drafted this face over, so technically you can come off here and maybe like kickflip off this and land and then transition out. I don't know if that face, how big that face is. Filleted the bottom. That may not work for anything. This may be too small of a face to land against, but let's see here. Boss extrude, just finished up, squared up that corner. Boss extrude 26. Doubles here for the BMX guys. They hardly ever put doubles in parks. I always struggle with these because I never quite know how big to make them. It's come on. They're 5 feet across the top, which probably isn't big enough. So for kids who can kind of ride, so it's hard because, again, when you're doing park design, if you design the park for the top riders, for the top 5 to 10% of riders, that's going to be great for videos. It's going to be terrible for day-to-day use. Anybody but the most kick-ass rippers just aren't going to use stuff because it's going to be too big. So I figured 5 feet was good for like a a rider that's a 5 or a 6, 1 to 10 scale. Don't know. I don't know if that's big enough. It's 5 feet tall. So I probably would, what would I do? If it was my park, just depends on how much time and money I had. I'd probably build a wooden one and jump it. I mean, what do you might have $1,000 or $500? No, probably more like $200 to $500 in a wooden ramp. Let's see. Why did I cut that face off? We'll see what I was doing here. I'm not quite sure. I guess I was making it so you could land over here. You could chicken out and land over here. Not sure how that'd work. If that would be cool or lame. Skaters could come off here and land out over in here. Good skaters could probably air the whole thing, although that landing's hella steep for a skateboard. But I suppose you could chicken out and land in here. I don't know. I struggled with that. Picnic tables. So there's nothing worse than having kids drag picnic tables all over the friggin' place. So these are like those, these are those picnic benches you'd find at like a campground. They're all concrete. There's no way you're moving it. It's 1,000 pounds. What I like about them, the all concrete ones, are low maintenance. They're pretty much indestructible. Especially if you put skate stops on them. More or less, they're not going to be used to grind the bench section. They're way better than a wooden or plastic or freaking metal with wood top benches. Just way longer life. So I got that from a company called Outdoor Creations, but I think there's a couple companies that make them. What's next here? What was this? Oh, that's just the dirt for the planter, and then I domed it. So that gets us past the elevated south section. We'll do the center island next. I did this just so that I knew kind of the size and shape of the island that was gonna cut the rest of the park out. I just wanted to know kind of how much room I would have with this island piece. So it just gave me an idea. So obviously the architects, I harped on this in the last video a lot. I think my biggest beef is these people who design parks, and there's part of them that likes nature, and I totally get it. A beautiful park when it's brand new. I think the proof in a good park, what does it look like 10 years down the road? So did you build it well? Is the concrete good? The guys that were doing it, did they, did they put gravel behind an area that's wet? So in the Northwest, some of the parks have problems with seep, where moisture will come through from the back. And what they didn't put enough gravel down to get the water to drop behind the park. They did shotcrete right against the bank, and it heaves and bleeds through, and some of the parks are thin, or they didn't anchor the coping very well. But one of my biggest beefs functionally is when you've got plants or especially trees that are around the park, and they'll drop stuff, leaves, bark, and whatnot in the park. Parks Department, cities do not give a hoot about parks, and I'm being kind. Once this park is built, they basically just come out if there's a busted line or something. And so I just don't get why these landscape architects, or these architects in general, are able to have so much sway over something that they've never used and they won't ever use. And I know that a lot of these parks are designed by park companies, and that's good. But even then, sometimes I see unwise choices. Like I was looking at this one company, and I guess I won't name them because I don't want to slander them. But somebody that had say so over the park put round river rock in one of the beds, and I'm just thinking, man, in a couple months, all that stupid round river rock's gonna be kicked all over the park. This is gonna be everywhere. And that is because they haven't seen a park 10 years down the road. And so if you're going to have planters, one of the things is the dirt inside the planter needs to be like 10 to 12 inches below the edge of the curb. So if you kick a rock, it doesn't end up out in the park, or dirt or whatever you've got going on in there just doesn't end in the park. And then the other thing is that planters are big enough that, majority of the leaves drop inside the planter. So anyways, I'm so sorry for the segue, but it makes me crazy because these guys that don't use the park sometimes get involved. So let's see, control sketch. So this is I kind of call this master modeling or skeleton modeling. In this case, this is a control sketch, but it's kind of that idea. So this determined the shape of the subsequent features. I did it all in one sketch because you get a sense of the distance between objects. I think if I had it to do over again, I would have done 4 sketches that would have all been control sketches because it's probably easier to move the sketches around. This is even a case where possibly you could have drop-in features that you modified. I'm not sure. So those are the control sketches. They control all of the actual features. Elevated southwest, that would be this one. All right, so we'll go through this. So this is just an extrude. Let's see, 4 foot height. This is the shape of the component at 4 feet. I think I made it taller. Yeah, there's an elevated section here. It's another 2 feet tall. So this section here is 6 foot tall. Oh, what did I do? Oh, I didn't roll forward. That's what I did. So I did some funky stuff here because there was no good way to do it. So I wanted something to come through and go back this direction, if you're coming from this way. So that's a flat face, and I'm pretty sure I'm just going to delete face that chunk out. Yep. And then I'm going to delete face that back corner, so we end up with this crazy slice. This is where you're going to see just some kind of strange modeling techniques, but I think you'll be able to follow it. So, and then I boss extruded a chunk back in. Give me a square corner there. What's the sweep? So that is a sweep around the face. That's vert for whatever reason. Oh, that's why. I just delete faced it out. What size is this? That's an 8 foot transition. This is 4 feet. That's 6 feet. So this never quite goes to vert. I'm going to fillet that corner, I'm betting. Nope. Filleted this face here. Next sweep is over here. That transition is 8 feet as well. So they're pretty flat. Not super steep transitions. I'm going to delete face that back to this surface here. So if you didn't catch that, I just did a delete face. Did I have to grab both faces or just one? I had to get both. Oh, is there a third? Oh, I had a little thing there that needed to go to the wall. So delete face, got rid of all that junk. Just trimmed it back. Now that's where's this fillet? Oh, just to ease that corner, I guess. Then there's a little kicker I put in there. Another delete face to get rid of that. Oh, what did that get rid of? Oh yeah, I see it. So delete face there. Then that allowed me to delete that chunk out and end up with this transition right here. What is this? 3 foot? 5 foot. So it's a 5 foot transition. I'm not even sure if this would work if you could get up on top of here and then pop off of that. I was hoping you could air off of it and end up down here or over here if you were real ballsy. That's pretty steep. What's that fillet do? Oh, there we patched in those corners. So we'll do that again so you can see it better. And then this, see, this is where it gets funky. I'm thinking that this right here maybe should have been pushed back more. Boy, I'm afraid to type in 5. Oh no, it actually worked, but it pulled this edge back. We'll stick with what I got. So fillet, that allows you to come off and pop up here. This big chamfer here to blend these faces. Probably ease the sharp corners. No, what did I do? Nope. Okay, there's a fillet there. There's going to be a sweep across that face. Then I'm going to delete face the top again. Looks like I had to do it in 2 stages to get it to complete. So there's that first feature. What's this boss extrude here? Or, yeah, what is that? What? I wonder if it wouldn't have just let me delete face that. Let's see. Yeah, for some reason it didn't like that. Probably because there's 2 faces here, so it's having a hard time figuring out what it would have terminated against. And then there's that fillet eases those 2 edges, and that one rounds this top corner off. Okay, so there's that feature. Not saying it's good, I'm just saying it is. It is what it is. Okay, and then this is the island. What did I do here? Island's pretty simple. So I put a retaining wall in. This section is going to be the planter. Filleted these corners where the picnic benches are going to go. Filleted the planter box. Moved this face within 1 inch of the difference here between this and this is 1 inch. And that's just to keep that from shedding water onto the park. So that's why it's a little lower. Cut out for the water to go into the planter. Filleted the corners of that cutout. And then what we've got is sweeps. I don't know, must not have been able to complete in 1 section for some reason. But this is just a 1 inch bevel down to the seating area. Might have to make this a lot bigger. That might have to be, let's see, I don't know what the angle is, but that might be way too abrupt. You might have to make that like all the way to the center. I don't know. Because you certainly don't want people stumbling on that, but it's just to bring the water inward. There's some bleacher seating, which I thought was really cool. This is another one of my favorite features, a place to sit and grind. But it just provides an area to sit if you're watching, but you're also a participant. If you're not a participant, you're going to go back in the picnic bench area. Chamfered the corners. Let's see, wedge. What do we got here? Ease the transition at the bottom of the wedge. Dirt. Domed up the dirt. We got some picnic tables that go in here. And that just gives seating for non-participants. And then elevated west, so that's the spine. And we will roll through that real quick. So obviously top of spine, some filleting so the sweeps come across nice. That was just a boss extrude because it's straight. We've got a loft, which is just a blend between this flat face and that extruded face. Obviously, they would do that on site. But you can kind of see that it just goes from a pocket to a flat face, kind of rolls up onto it. Let's see, move face, what the heck is that? Oh, that's just so the park runs at an angle, so I did a move face and then I'll probably move that one too or delete it. Yeah, and that just aligns it with the sidewalk. Cut extrude, so this is a pass through for BMX if you're trying to haul butt. And then some roll. I don't even know if that's flat enough. You'd probably air that pretty bad. I think this might need to be made much broader. So if that doesn't work as a real pass through, then what it would work for is kids. They'd be able to roll over that real easy without having to transition over the spine. Elevated southeast. So this is a simpler setup. Got this top shape. This is, I believe, 5 feet tall. We're probably going to fillet some faces. There's a big fillet. There's another. Oh, that's actually a fillet of the corner. And we're going to fillet this other pocket here. This should all, if you land here, you're going kind of into the wall here. What I'm hoping is that they can kind of transition. They can actually ride around this face here. Or around this planter, you can air around it. So one of the directions you could go is like this. I need an annotation tool. Someday. And then here's a sweep, and this is the landing. It's 30 degrees. That's pretty steep. What's this delete face? That just gets us lined up with the edge of the park. We've got a fillet right there. And then we probably have a top and a bottom. And that's the elevated southeast feature. Now we're going to do the elevated northeast feature. This one was a little more complex because of that bump. So here's the base feature right here. And then we've got the landing, which is a flat landing, no transition. We've got transition here between this flat face and then this flat face. We've got some transition right there. Sorry about moving around so much, guys. Let's see what we're going to do. Fill it. So ease the bottom. Plane 17. What do we got here? What do we got? the transition on this face here looks like it's 8-foot tranny. A big riser. This is tangent right here. So I just put this big chunk in. Doesn't really, you can see right here, it doesn't quite align with this corner. I revolved that feature. So just did a revolve off of one side and then off the other. So I've got this pill shape sitting on top here. And I think I probably start cutting it off. So I deleted that face. What's the surface offset? I'm making some cutting here. Surface extend to cut through the pill. Surface cut, which cut off this chunk here. Just extending that surface. Then I deleted it. Why did I delete face? Let's turn this off, hide. What did I delete? Oh, I just made it one face since it's planar, or it's not planar, but it's SolidWorks should be able to stitch those two faces together, so that's what I did. Surface offset 2. I'm going to clip this side of the pill. I'm just going to cut off all this area underneath here. Surface extend, surface cut, body delete, keep, delete face. Did I do the same thing here? Yep, made it one face. Filleting. I started doing some filleting, so I eased this face here. So the thing about park design, this is something on site they're going to have to blend. I'm not quite sure how they'd even do that. They'd probably have to make a sharp corner and then use a flathead to blend that in. You just scoop out what you don't want and then bull float it in and then trowel it down, I guess. This here would never match the CAD. This is all freeform work here. So it looks nice on paper, but there's no way those guys are going to match the CAD. Same thing with these corners. They're going to blend these by hand. There's no way they're going to actually do that. So it looks good in CAD, but when you get out on site, I'm sure these guys improvise a lot. Blend up here on the deck. I believe this draft is on the other side over here. Yeah, so I just tried to ease this face right here. How did I draft that? What did I use as the... I use this landing here as the face to tilt it out from. Gosh, this camera, I need it zoomed out some. I'm going to figure this out. And then fillet that edge probably. Yeah, it's just more blending that they would do at the park. Okay. Elevated north. This was kind of a pain in the ass. This elevated section over here was not super easy. So it's going to pop up here. And then we're going to roll it back. Oh, we got something broken. What broke? Huh. Wonder if that'll rebuild. I think that's a... SolidWorks 2018 has some issues at times. It'll get things where if you rebuild it, it'll be fine, and then the next time you roll it back, it's broken again. And there's never a reason that I can figure out why. It just breaks and you rebuild it and it's fine. So we'll see if that's what happens. Elevated area, just 7 feet tall. This is probably a little ridiculous. This may be too tall. I've got sketch there for the curb, and then control sketch for the bowl. So you can see that's a 22-foot diameter. This is just a fit size because you've got a 6-foot rim. You've got 6 feet of deck around this, and then again, here's another fit circle here. You've got a 4-foot diameter connector between these two circles, and you've got kind of this face out here that's got an 8-foot face on it, and then 16 feet right here. So that's my control for the bowl, and you'll see that evolve here in a little bit. So that's an extra high area. So for total, what was this? Is this 6 feet? 7. That's 12 feet tall. I don't know that. I don't know if that's something anybody would sign off on. That's pretty tall, but it's what I drew. So this is my idea of a park. Whether it would actually get past construction or not, who knows. I got this face here, and then so this seems strange, but there's a reason. So I was doing a variable fillet, and it wouldn't complete because it didn't have enough face to complete on. So that was just this was just in order to, I didn't roll forward, get the fillet to complete. So this is a variable fillet that goes from 8 foot to 14 foot radius. So there's a big giant sort of blend across here, but it was done in a variable fillet. And then I did a surface offset. I need that later for some reason. And let's see. And then I cut that face off of there. I'm not sure why I did that. It's probably just easier to hack this thing back together. Deleted this face, which is able to terminate against this. Some planes so that I can get this in. This is a curb with a handrail to keep people from their bike or skateboard to end up in the bowl over there. I'm going to turn off this surface so you can see what I did, because it's kind of blocking things. So here's the first cut for that low section. This gives this transition here. And then I'm going to do another half over here. That's a flat face, 30 degrees, so it's pretty steep. How deep is this? It's a 2-foot cut, so it's 2-foot difference. Something to kind of keep everybody out of that corner. And then a grind, curb, and I filleted the top right there. And then I've seen these for skateboards before. You've got a flat face, and then you can go up and basically 5-0 or 50-50 or nose grind or whatever. You can get up there and get on this. This really isn't for BMX. It's too small of a feature, I think. You could maybe foof it. But it's mainly for skateboarding. Big tall corner to keep people off of the stairs. Transition at the back here. Another flat face to this curb. So you can get on over here and kind of just, I'm not sure if there's enough room here or not. I might push this whole thing forward, but be able to like go over this curb right here with the skateboard. I'm not quite sure what it's called, but you'd go up and go on your tail and then basically transition over it. Sorry, it's been so long since I skateboarded. I forgot the terminology. Plus, they call stuff different now. I was at the skate park the other day, and my term isn't their term anymore. They call stuff different things. So I'm old and don't know what I'm talking about. Ease that face. I'm guessing at some point I delete that face there. Yes, this is all part of the transition. Chamfer. Just put a chamfer out here on this block. I kind of go through this. There's the cut for the stairs. So that's based on a shape there. That's just my cutting shape there. What did I delete? Deleted this face to match the top stair. Curbs. So the curbing is just to keep boards from going under the fence. So you can see all this curb that I added. That was probably from this sketch way up here, right there. So I probably did a convert feature and made this curb. What do we got here? Boss extrude. Made a tombstone here, an extension for that face. And this radius is 8 feet. So I don't think that quite goes to vert. There's just some cleanup here, so filleted that corner. One thing about filleting, it's going to be really hard for the guys to make forms. They'd have to actually take plywood and kerf the plywood to get it to bend, or they'd have to take 1/4 inch plywood and screw it onto something to get it to bend around a corner like that. I'd hope they'd do it. I don't know that they would. They might leave this corner sharp. So there's a bunch of stuff they may be like, we're definitely not doing that from a concrete perspective. Or they might try to follow the thing exactly. Another big block to keep people off the stairs, and then this radius right here just deflects, if someone ejects on their board, comes down here, runs along this face, and ends up out here instead of out into the stairs. You'll notice all of my blocks have that feature where it kind of kicks the board into the park. Let's see. Cut, revolve. This revolve here just slices off these walls. You can see this transition here. Just gives more visibility into the park. So it's not like it's not like Gotham-y kind of no access. So bowl, full depth shape. And then we got to fillet those two faces here and here. And then the transition for the bowl, which is 7 foot. The bowl is how deep? Bowl's 6 foot deep. I believe curb to bottom of bowl is 1 foot. Yeah, 12 inches. Let's see what's next. So then there's this shallower pocket right here. So that's a cut. And then we're going to fillet that section. And you end up with these weird, this would actually be a sharp corner here and here. They don't transition well. So what I did is I did split lines. I split the transition here and there and here. And the same thing, I'm going to roll this split line back and then forward, and I'll even show. So those are my cut lines there. And then I'm going to delete out all those faces. So this is the part where there's some surfacing. So now I've got these open holes. I'm going to fillet this edge here. So I still have open holes. And then I just did a tangent surface fill. And this edge right here is coincident, or what is it called in the tangent or in the surface fill? It's called contact. So you can see this one edge, that edge there is contact only. Everything else is tangent. So patch that in with tangency. Same thing on the other side, patch it in with tangency. So we're back to a watertight model. Curb up on top here to keep people out of this corner. I think I actually ended up deleting that corner, we'll see. That wasn't necessary. I ended up actually putting curbing there. So it's kind of a waste of time. Yeah, see, now this is going to work. So just cut all that away there. It's still a curb. Let me roll this back and forth so you guys can see it. And then you can see I trimmed off the rest of that. It's kind of a corner right here. I don't really like this, but I didn't want people to get over this railing here and have something to stand on back here. And then what did I do there? What is that move face? Oh, yeah, I just made this go all the way up. Some of this I would call patchwork. So what you'll do is you'll sort of work yourself into a corner. And so instead of trying to go back and figure out where the problem was, sometimes it's easier, especially since this is, it's not a machined part, so there's not really design intent per se. There's some overall design intent, but a lot of times you're just trying to, shape the concrete into what you want it to look like. So you can do kind of this Boolean work where you just trim, cut, and you end up with the shape you want. So it's not super clean. It makes for a longer feature tree, but sometimes it's just easier to do that to get where you want with things like curbing. Let's see. So then the unexciting stuff would be curbs and coping. So curbs are pretty self-explanatory. Let's see. Less curb along the park. Window cutouts for the railing. Curb extensions. So let's just go through it here. Curb. And then extensions where the jumps are and features. And then curb to keep a board from going out the corner. Put a step in it for visibility. Curb over here by the planter. Filleted the corners since that's not going to get railing. Ease the other corners. East curb. You can see I got stuff sticking outside the park. At some point I'll trim that off. So curb extension. You can see I got some junk there. We're going to trim that off. Delete face. Goodbye. East curb extension 2, which is where? Up on top there. What are we doing with these cut extrudes? Park entrance 1. Probably another park entrance up here. That was just to trim down some of this tall corners here. Probably do the same thing on the next feature. Yeah, put steps in them. That's going to be a big block over here at this 12-foot extension. And I trim it down, what, twice? Yeah. So you can look on the inside and kind of see what I was doing there. And then the opening over there. Okay, last but not least, we are going to look at coping. Man, is it taking a bit for coping to regenerate. I think that's because it's a weldment. I didn't draw in any of the support for the coping, none of the rebar, because that wouldn't make a humongous file compared to what this already is. If I was doing the park for real, I think I drew the coping right on the center line. I didn't actually hold it in the way I should have because it was being kind of a pain in the ass. So I think I drew it. Yeah, I cheated. Drew it right on top. So the coping's a cheat, but it does represent where it would be, where the metal's at. But I for sure cheated on this one. The angle's correct. There's some, see, I'd capped this end. I was hurrying on the coping, so I was burnt out. You can see how much coping there is. Tons of it. Tons. So I don't think we're going to step through the coping because that's going to take forever. What's that split line? What is that, sidewalk? Oh, that's grass. So this was just to make these grass sections here. Coping, let's just talk about it for a second. So you can see like this doesn't even match. There's something going on here that's unhappy. Pretty sure that's a video card problem. And getting this angle iron to wrap around these sharp corners would be difficult. So this is a SolidWorks glitch 2018. This is a bug. These two features right here, they're broken. The moment I rebuild it again, they'll be fine. And then if I go to the, it says it doesn't cut, but it does. So eat these broken. So all this stuff was just, these are weldments, and this is, I think, 2x2 angle. So you can see that, and then this is either 1.5 or 2-inch coping. It's 2-inch. And I probably cheated and ran it right along the edge. I did. I didn't offset it or anything. So if I was doing this for real, obviously the coping would sit down and in. You wouldn't have it stick that far out. But it was just to mark the edges where the coping would be. So you can see where the coping would sit. You can see the coping on the street spine's got a little concrete in between it. My concern about coping like this, you end up with this concrete chipping out. I would be tempted to actually, well, you can't make the whole top metal because it's slick as hell. I might widen that because eventually this concrete's going to bust out. I'm not sure what I'd do there. So I've got angle iron on this bottom step because obviously that if people are going to grind that, that's where they're going to hit. They might grind this one, but probably not. And I'd probably roll all these edges here. I should have done that. I should have put a fillet in here. There's a little coping here on this face. Basically, there's coping on each transition face. There's coping that runs the full length here. Coping all the way around the bowl. Coping on both sides of this tombstone just in case so you don't blow the back out. Probably should have been coping here and here, but I didn't do it. Angle iron on this face, angle on that, angle on this, Should have capped the end with some coping. Didn't do that. I should have done that. I'm pretty sure that's it. So, and then we'll go back to the assembly here real quick. So you can see, I don't know if this is a good idea or not, but basically this is just to keep people from going into the bowl. Just trying to keep boards and bikes out of there. You know, if someone, sorry, this is moving around a lot. If someone bails out right here on this face, I suppose on a bike it would end up over the top of that. Maybe a skateboard too. It's just a feeble effort to keep stuff out of the bowl, especially if you come off this face here and have a board spit out. And I tried to make it open enough where you can still cut through right there. You can come across here and go down around that side. I thought about moving this closer so you could wall ride it, but then it makes for a really narrow deck up here. But I did think about making this like 2 feet away so you could actually pop out of here and wall ride that. Technically, if you were super burly, you could probably air out of here. I don't know. That's pretty far away. You might be able to get on that wall, and it's maybe not tall enough either. I don't think so. But you can see I put railing up so people wouldn't climb on top of stuff. I don't want some kid. Should have put one here. I don't want them falling from here down to here. So definitely kids are dumb, and I was dumb when I was a kid, and just don't want to minimize people getting hurt. All right, so that's the Hoboken, New Jersey skate park, or at least my idea of what it should look like. Hopefully it was interesting for those of you that are watching for the Solidworks part. I know it was a long video, but there's just no way to do these walkthroughs without going through each component or each step. Believe it or not, the fencing took a long time. There's a lot of work in those, just making panels. I don't actually even like the shape of the panels. I think I'd probably change them, but I needed to bulk something in. So that was kind of the quickest way to do it. Just getting these panels, like the row, see this row right here, getting that to carry all the way through was a pain in the ass. They match. Yeah, so lots of work, tons and tons of work. This was a couple of weeks of work, and I hope it was entertaining for you SolidWorks guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.